Hey, Washington Commanders fans. I have three absolutely crucial pieces of news that show exactly where we are and where we're headed in this final stretch of the season, and you need to hear every word, because it defines the future of our franchise for 2026. The first piece of news reveals Dan Quinn's full plan for the last few weeks, and how he intends to balance two things that seem impossible to accomplish at the same time. The second involves Payne's return after that controversial suspension and the important lesson he learned from this whole situation. And the third is the most exciting of all because Terry McLaurin is finally coming back and talked about discovering an extra gear he never had before. And of course, don't forget to leave a like. It's just a click, it's quick, and it's all I ask. Let's start by talking about Dan Quinn's plan for the rest of this season because this is an extremely delicate situation. The Washington Commanders are going through a very tough phase where the present and future of the team are headed in completely opposite and conflicting directions. Devastating injuries, serious depth issues, and huge adaptation difficulties have forced the coaching staff to be extremely creative in their decisions about who plays and how long each one stays on the field. Dan Quinn directly addressed this complicated challenge this week when questioned by reporters about how he plans to balance the playing time of young players who need to develop with the need to give experience to veterans who can still help win games. It's a tightrope he needs to walk very carefully. The Commanders are literally in a situation where they need to do two things at the same time that seem to contradict each other. On one hand, they want to stay competitive every week and not seem like they've given up on the season. On the other hand, the reality of the season has required them to rely heavily on young and inexperienced players who need time on the field to develop properly. Quinn spoke very openly and honestly about this gigantic challenge and how the coaching staff is trying to deal with it in the best way possible, given the circumstances. He said it's a great question and that they're really trying to find that perfect balance between winning now in the present and developing for the future, while also thinking about next season. There are some players he believes are taking those important steps, like Jordan Magee, whom he feels is quickly evolving to the next level of play. But you have to try to do both things simultaneously without completely sacrificing either one. Quinn said he was genuinely pleased to see Jacoby Jones make a big, impactful play last week as a receiver, showing his potential. And when those moments come where you are truly helping the younger guys develop in tangible ways, that's extremely important for the future of the organization. Quinn further explained in detail how the structure of daily practices plays an absolutely fundamental role in this entire development process. Instead of just conducting separate practices with the second-string roster where they don't face real competition, Washington is creating specific opportunities to evaluate younger players in real competitive situations that simulate what happens on Sunday games. This includes much more meaningful repetitions, crucial third-down simulations, and moments where less experienced players can demonstrate if they are ready to take on more responsibilities in the main roster. Specific players like linebacker Jordan Magee have completely earned Quinn's trust through these training opportunities, while others, like defensive backs Carlin Vigers and Rob McDaniel, are working extremely hard to earn more chances to showcase their worth. Quinn has repeatedly emphasized that the Commanders' coaching staff has intentionally created an environment very conducive to speeding up the development of these young players without sacrificing the team's competitiveness on Sundays when the games really matter. He explained that what they also do here is dedicate much more time to players who don't have as much accumulated experience so that they can fully participate in practices, get truly meaningful repetitions, and genuinely compete. And that's exactly why he likes to have a full roster available to train properly and make this happen. They've expanded their competitions in practice because they have more people who can actively participate. So the ripple effect of this is that more players are getting those crucial repetitions. Now let's move on to the second piece of news involving the return of Darren Payne after that controversial suspension that left everyone upset. Washington Commanders defensive tackle Darren Payne had to sit out of his team's loss to the Miami Dolphins in Week 11 in Madrid, Spain, before the team's bye week in Week 12. This makes his return to the field in Week 13 against the Broncos extremely significant as he seeks to fully leave behind his one-game suspension and show everyone exactly why he was praised as the natural leader of the Commanders team before the start of the season. Perhaps even more importantly from a tactical standpoint, he will again help strengthen the vulnerable middle of Washington's defensive line that has struggled greatly in his absence. Payne said this week that it's going to be a really fun game and that he is extremely happy to finally be back on the field doing what he loves. The combination of completely rested legs after the bye week, new game strategies developed by the coaching staff, and the renewed energy generated by the break promises to provide fun football to participate in and for fans to watch, according to Payne himself. For head coach Dan Quinn, the main goal is simply to get back to normal as soon as possible and forget this unpleasant episode. He said it has been extremely difficult since the moment they learned that this controversial suspension could occur up until the appeal that happened literally minutes before the takeoff to Spain. So it really was until the last possible minute, a situation of high tension. Of course, with every suspension that occurs, there's naturally hope that the player has learned to handle this type of situation better in the future. However, when it comes to the essence of a true competitor, that solution may not be the passive answer we all hope to hear. Payne was quite straightforward when asked about what he learned from all of this. He said to handle it right away, not to wait until later when they come to talk nonsense, to resolve the situation right then and there. In the loss of the Commanders to the Detroit Lions in Week 10, receiver Amon-Ra St. Brown slapped Payne in a manner very similar to how the defensive tackle had retaliated against the receiver just a few plays later. Curiously, St. Brown's action did not result in any penalty or suspension, whereas Payne's resulted in a one-game suspension. Quinn spoke about the lessons learned, saying that you talk about all this, learn from mistakes, want to make absolutely sure that the lessons are fully absorbed, what you can take from those bad moments, not just for himself, but so he can pass that wisdom to someone else who may be in the same tough situation in the future. But we are very excited to have him back, because that is very important for us as a defense. And now we come to the third and most exciting piece of news, because Terry McLaurin is finally coming back. And he's not just coming back, he's coming back better than ever. The Washington Commanders will soon have back one of their key offensive players in full physical and mental shape. Terry McLaurin has been working tirelessly for weeks to fully recover from his lingering thigh injury, but this time, he says things feel visibly different in a very positive way. The two-time Pro Bowl player looked extremely confident and energized while speaking with reporters this week, describing a level of comfort and explosiveness that he simply hadn't displayed at the beginning of the season when he first returned. Washington has greatly missed McLaurin's reliability, natural leadership, and presence in the open field making plays. His first attempt to return earlier this year was brutally interrupted by a frustrating relapse of the same injury, but now he assures that the difference is absolutely striking. He said he feels really good, visibly better this time than the last time he tried to return, but even when he came back last time, he felt physically ready. There was just a small discomfort that turned into a bigger issue, but now he really feels good. He simply doesn't feel any concerning tension in the area of the previous injury. He feels that his explosive acceleration is completely there, as if he has discovered an extra gear that he never had before, and doesn't even think about the injury during movements anymore. That extra gear he mentioned was definitely put to the test during practice this week, when McLaurin had the perfect opportunity to catch a long pass from quarterback Jayden Daniels, who was also returning to practice. The result was an extremely comforting moment for both players who hadn't played together in months. He told Daniels, "Thank you for helping me hit 33 kilometers per hour today," because they managed to connect on a long ball perfectly, and the feeling is just great to be doing that again. For a receiver known nationally for his pure speed, this has been the clearest signal so far that he is fully ready to compete again at a high level. McLaurin also spoke very openly and maturely about the brutal nature of the NFL, honestly acknowledging that injuries are simply an inevitable part of any professional player's job. He said he thinks that we NFL players sometimes have an irrational fear of injuries, but at the end of the day, if you're going to be here playing, injury is mathematically 100% guaranteed if you're lucky enough to play this sport long enough. So he never had any real doubts that he would take it easy or slow down out of fear. Even with all the natural frustration of missing so much valuable time this season, McLaurin said he intentionally used this forced period of inactivity to grow tremendously, both mentally and spiritually as a person. He has grown a lot in his faith and as a human being, and what he is most genuinely proud of is the positive way he handled the entire adverse situation. So the final question I leave for you to reflect on and answer in the comments is, considering that Terry McLaurin is returning in a physical shape he says is better than ever with an extra gear he has never had before, that Darren Payne is back after learning his lesson and ready to dominate, and that Dan Quinn has a clear plan to develop young players while trying to win games. Do you believe these three pieces coming together now can really create that spark necessary for an unlikely run in the last 6 weeks? Or is it too late, and should we simply accept this season as a year of learning and development looking towards 2026?